Welcome to Whole Lot of Wolves, episode 6 of our second season. We're your hosts. I'm Joshua Buckley.
And I'm Paul LePage.
And we're joined once again by two of our favorites. We have from the porch in Alabama, Mr. Wolfman Jeff. How's it going, Wolfman?
Hey, good to be back on the show, guys. Good time to be back because we're talking about happy times today.
And speaking of happy times, it is Whole Lot of Wolves resident curmudgeon, Mr. Andrew Smith of Atlanta Wolves. How's it going, Andrew?
Pretty good. A happy boy this week.
I know.
Now I can
Sometimes Paul and I feel like we need to do wellness checks after some of your texts that we get from you. Calling wellness. So when Wolves won on Saturday 2-0 over Watford, I said, okay, now's a good time for us to have Andrew on.
Exactly.
He'll be in a better mood.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
So let's go straight to the game. Finally, a goal, although it was an own goal. That's okay. Yep. And then Hwang Hee-chan put the game away with a late goal. So 2-0 win at Watford. Paul, I'll let you start. How were you feeling? I know how you were feeling because I was there, but you tell everybody else.
Pleased, workmanlike performance. Nice to have some luck. I thought the second half pretty much was one-way traffic. And as soon as that goal went in, it felt like another was coming, which was nice and refreshing. We haven't felt like that for a while. And again, whilst I don't think we were at top speed yet, I still think there's that opportunity where we're going to come up against someone and Raul's header is going to go in and all of those chances that we create. I still think we're going to really turn someone over one of these weeks playing the way that we do. So ton of positives. I think first half was fairly even. They were having some joy down the right-hand side. I think Sarr coming up against Marcel and Saiss. I'd like to know what Bruno did or said or what the tactics were in the halftime team talk, because that dried up in the second half, really. So it was good to have that shut out. And we went on from there. We built on a solid foundation, and yeah, plenty of positives to take, I think, with all of it.
Wolfman?
Yeah, this is actually the first game I got to watch because I'd been on the road for a while, and I didn't watch it in order. I felt like I jumped into a show, and I was binge watching and went back and watched the other one. I'm not sure if it was the same for you, but I didn't get a chance. I was watching on Peacock, who lost a lot of Wolves fans this weekend. So
you should say you were attempting to watch on Peacock.
I was, and I kept refreshing every few minutes in just the vain hope and trying to find, and I was searching online to see if I can find out another source. And I couldn't get the audio stream to work because you can go to the Wolves app and sometimes you can pay to get the audio. But second half came in. So I had a different approach, I think, from someone who watched the full match. So I didn't watch it in order. It seemed a little sluggish starting, but compared to what I'd seen of the clips from the first three matches, it didn't look like we played quite as well. But I wonder if, Josh, that's part of playing to the level of your opposition. And I think there was a fair bit of that. It was enough to beat Watford. I don't think it was poor by any chance, but it was. I had seen some other clips where it looked like we were a little more organized, but we weren't disorganized. But then once that own goal went in, I think it totally changed the match. And it was like the veil was lifted and they're like, okay, that's off our back. And I felt that we were going to get a goal. I was hoping it was going to be Raul. I so am waiting for the Raul goal this year, like the rest of us. But I was happy with the goal we had. I think the thing I liked about the goal we had, pretty, but it was tenacious. And that's the thing last year I felt we missed, is the fight was out and we had fight. Even though opposition wasn't as strong as the rest of the Premier League, we weren't content with just the one goal. I think we had a lot more fight. So I was overall pleased.
All right, Andrew, what were your thoughts?
Oh, thank you to Paul for telling me that you could get it on NBC because I was in the same boat. But I was able to pick it up on the Wolves app, at least the commentary side. I was pleasantly surprised at how we weren't 1-0 behind when they kicked that ball across and the player completely missed.
Oh, yeah.
I just thought right there, oh, and I saw that part of the highlights. What I found out is that I thought the other team started to figure us out a little bit on the play, because after watching the highlights, the first half was very one-sided, and we didn't seem as aggressive. That could have been maybe the international break, perhaps a little bit, that maybe the players were tired a little bit. Certainly spurned on in the second half, no doubt. Disappointed that Semedo didn't put that ball away. I thought we had a good shot there. Yeah, that was surprising. But the second half, what I noticed, how many more players are getting into the box. I noticed that, I think his nickname is Bull. They call him the Bull. Yeah. I noticed that even though he scored that second goal and it was across the line and then fluky, I noticed there were 3 players almost in parallel with him. And I thought, wow, that might be a good sign. They're finally understanding that final third, we have to execute and do something with it instead of trying to be fancy and pass it off here and hopeful. And I think it could be good. I know we'll talk about Brentford later, but it'll be very interesting in what we're going to do against that game. Very interesting.
So now I have to ask you, Andrew, because you weren't thrilled with the Lodge hire. And I know after those first 3 games, we were laughing at you, but you were like, if we lose against Watford, Lodge is done.
Yeah.
And we were laughing at you, but how do you feel after that game about Bruno? Because I'm all in on Bruno ball. This is a lot of fun.
I'm still skeptical, and I'll tell you why. I think there's a 7 to 8 game window. And if you think 21 to 24 points is that maximum points. And I was just really concerned about us falling too quick, too fast. 9 points given up. I know we played 3 very good teams, but I'm still not sure if we have enough depth. Again, I'm still concerned. A couple of knocks here and there. I'm concerned that we might struggle. I have more confidence in a little bit more now, I think, compared to where Nuno was this time last year. But I still think our squad, we still need about 2 or 3 deep players. And I wish we'd have done something in that window. And that was very disappointing, extremely disappointing. Not picking up an extra center midfielder would have been ideal, I think.
Yes. Yeah. I absolutely agree with Andrew, especially on, the funny thing is, in a lot of ways, I think we had the best depth in a long time, but it's still quite not enough. It just takes 1 or 2 to go out, and we could find ourselves in last year's situation. I think the thing I'm frustrated with is I think a lot of fans are becoming frustrated with Fosun this time. So it's not on Bruno. And I think part of the problem is if you've worked in a company and a key person resigns or leaves the company, and rather than replace that person, they just spread out his work among other people. I think the rest of us have been there. That doesn't work. That works in emergency measures. It doesn't work for a couple of years. And Jeff Shee and others have taken on roles that I think they weren't quite suited for. One of the things that I was hearing a report about why some of our signings we had intended to get this summer didn't go through, and this scares me a little bit, is we don't seem to have the same luster that we had in years prior. Now, that could change, I think, if Bruno proves himself and how we perform on the pitch. I think there's just too many question marks. So not only, yes, we need to get some top players, but it didn't sound like it was completely a money issue. It was getting these top players to commit to our program, because I'm not sure they're seeing the vision. So I'm hoping by January that changes. We'll see. But I'm also muted. It's not going to be as great of a Christmas as we're hoping, but we definitely going to get someone, I think, in the midfield and someone in center back.
Never doubt Santa Lodge. Paul, I know we've talked last week about potentially upgrading in January. One of the big things that we were curious about, though, was once they took that 1-0 lead, how would they play? And Lodge didn't drop back into park the bus like Nuno usually did. He kept going. In fact, they were still attacking at 2-0. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, a big positive that even with Hwang's goal, it was effectively Marcel that set it up, because he was the body in the box at the same time. So you had your left wing back attacking, you had him going in there, which was great. I think that's what we've really missed, that scruffy goal. That's someone just having the fox in the box mentality that could be in the 6-yard box and just get on the end of those scrappy efforts and get those goals. So really refreshing to see that. I think it's great for Bruno, and a real positive for him, that whilst we're not blessed with massive depth, it was a really good bench. So for him to be able to turn around and think, I can take off 2 of my best outlets, 2 of the best players that I've got on the pitch, swap them out for 2 others that are going to have that impact in the second half of the game, I thought that was fantastic. And Podence popping up with that assist, well, effectively an assist, and great bit of skill to sell their centre back, put him on his backside and put a nice ball across. It was great, again, refreshing and nice to have that intent, and nice to have a coach make those decisions and pay off for him.
A lot of those players we used to see in those foxes in the box, outside of Raul coming in the middle, we used to see Jota do that.
Yeah.
We used to see Matt Doherty a lot.
Yeah.
And Johnny to a level, but I think once we lost Matt and then Jota, Johnny went down. It was just Neto and Jimenez, and then it was just Neto, and then it was no one. So it was good to see that Podence is getting that back. I hope that continues. Looks like Marcel is playing with a little more moxie, and so far excited what I'm seeing with Juan. Outside of just the goal, I felt like he was very comfortable.
There's that nice clip doing the rounds on social media as well, where he wins the ball back in the midfield as well, and the strength he shows. So if he's got that to his game as well, where he can put a foot in and not get knocked off the ball and set some up for the midfield, I think that's going to be such a asset to both his and our game. And it's interesting that not comparison you made, but highlight the opportunities or the goals that we're missing from Doherty, and then with Semedo's chance, because man, if Semedo could finish, that the 32 million or whatever he's going to end up costing would look like a snip, because everything was right in those 2 chances that he had. Hopefully that's coming. They're going to work in shooting practice, and we'll see some improvements there. But
Semedo actually does give us quite a lot, but unfortunately, it's those 2 missed goals is what a lot of Wolves fans are going to remember this week.
Yeah.
So he negates. It's like he empties out his bank. He makes these great deposits, and then all of a sudden, he goes to the ATM and there's nothing there. So
yeah, it's the Dama effect there.
Yeah,
for sure.
Same thing. Andrew, how did you like the aggressive style still going on after getting the lead?
Oh, I think it's great. I still think how poor, when I go back to the England-Italy game, we scored that goal, and then boom, we just went into this defensive mode, and it cost us. I think if they keep that momentum, they could do very well this season. I like that aggressiveness of, I'm going to take the ball back, and once you start moving your defenders up or your wing backs up, and you take that ball from midfield, we're going to catch some teams out. There's no doubt. I think some good positive signs. There's no doubt.
I think another thing we highlighted last year, and it's become really magnified this season, is that we'd effectively written Moutinho off, especially in a 2 versus Neves, and we're being forced to eat our words with the start of the season that they've gone on, because whether that's an impact of the style and a higher press, that we're leading from the front a little bit more, and they're both being allowed to play further up the field. It's not just backs against the wall. Both of them are having to do the defensive duties and be overrun. We're playing on the front foot, and I think that's having a benefit from top to bottom, and it eases the pressure on the defense if we're attacking from the front. And it's easing that burden somewhat on Neves and Moutinho, and they're in probably their best form as a duo since the first season together, I think.
No, I agree, and I think our goalkeeper sometimes looks bored back there, doesn't he? He should bring one of those little bikes out to just keep his legs warm, running in the goal or something. He just looks lonely back there for a while, but it's good. That's okay.
2 things I really liked that I saw. One was when they took the lead, they still brought in Podence. that really showed that, hey, we're not going to just drop back, because Podence is not who you'd bring in for defensive purposes. And clearly they still went at it. I also noticed there in the closing moments, most of the time teams just try and go to the flag and then just kind of keep it in. They did not. Wolves refused to go to the flag. In fact, they were still trying to win possession to potentially cross it into the box. I love seeing that. I mean, you're talking 2-goal advantage in stoppage time, and you're still doing that. That's fun. That's fun for the fans.
Yeah. I'm hoping that hunger is going to continue, and I'm trying to brace myself, because I know just 1 or 2 injuries could change things. That's my biggest concern with the midfield right now. Yes, Moutinho and Neves are playing very well together now. We'll see if that holds for the year. And then more importantly, we can't have just those 2 in the midfield for the whole year. So I don't think we still have an issue there, and I'm not sure who we're going to bring in, but we'll see. What do you guys think? Do you think we're going to end up with the back 3 all year, or is he going to be playing around with the back line next?
I don't know. See, that's what's interesting, because I think he got Hwang Hee-chan figuring he could be up there with Jimenez as a front 2.
Yeah.
And Kilman, I think, can fit in any system. Honestly, I think right now the only reason they're still sticking with the 5-man back is because of Cody. Because if you do 4-man back, do you trust Cody back there? And at this point, if you don't, do you trust whoever would be the main captain then over Cody out there?
This is a crazy theory. I'm not sure it would work. What do you think Cody could play a defensive midfielder?
Paul doesn't.
No.
Paul doesn't.
No. Yeah. I didn't know that would be a way to have him, and that way he can move back if he needs to, but I just don't see his agility with that. But yeah, I have to agree. I think Cody is it will be a liability if we go back to a back 4. I think Kilman's stock is raising quickly.
Yeah.
I haven't had a chance to see the new guy from Colombia too much. From what I saw, I liked, but he hasn't been there too much. If Bali stays healthy, you've got the players to do it, but that means your captain's on the bench, and that's true. I was just throwing that out there. I don't know who would we see come into the midfield. Obviously, Saiz and Dendoncker have done that in the past, but I don't know who else we have for that.
I think there's if it ain't broke, don't fix it at the moment for the formation. So make hay while the sun shines. But I think back to your point, Jeff, about the project and having those key figures, I think if you come to January and then you do go back in for Renato Sanchez, that's the statement signing to say we're all in on Bruno. This is version 2 of the project, and he'll be our talisman. This is the next evolution, those types of players. But if that's going to happen in midfield, I probably think that something similar will need to be happening in the back as well, and have someone of that stature come in, whether that's Botman or someone else. I'm convinced that we need that real leader at the back who can come in and be that status as a centre back.
I think the only way Cody back in defensive midfield would work is if they were going to run like a diamond in the midfield. But then you're looking at who would play the top. Neves probably wouldn't be good. That would be where if you had a Sanchez, that would work. But then you're at that point talking Moutinho and Neves on the bench. You'd like to think. I think you could make it work in FIFA.
Yeah.
But is this like, for Andrew, I can bet you can appreciate that this is some weird paradox that we're talking about a Wolves centre back who's probably in the range of around 20, 25, 30 million pounds, who's an England international, could easily come on if one of the first choice England centre backs goes off injured. There's Cody on the bench. And then we're thinking, have the Wolves got space for him going forwards? It's crazy when we're used to the likes of Paul Blades and Rob Hydemarsh and you name all these absolute donkeys that we've had over the years, and this is what we're talking about now. It's like we're in a parallel universe.
Amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
If we
apart from Rob Hydemarsh scoring against Albion, I'll add that.
Yeah.
So if we hadn't played the way we've played the last 4 games, then we wouldn't be talking about this. So we would be talking like how we had the last time we were both on here, which was when the spiral was going on. So yes, wild, goofy speculation. I prefer it to panic.
Would you guys, now that it looks like Bali and Mosquera are both healthy, would you put one of them in place of Saiz, or do you go with Paul's? If it's not broke, don't fix it?
I think with some of the players are starting to gel and click. I think some of the rotation is not going to do us any harm. And I think that keeps players refreshed. If they're playing 60 minutes and they switch out, or 70 minutes, and it's nice to see that. And I think we still need depth, but some of the players that are starting to work out, I think, in different positions. I agree with Paul, don't touch it, but I think some mixture will be good to avoid those injuries. You start to see already, look at what happened to the guy at Liverpool. Was that a broken ankle, that tackle from behind?
Yeah.
So the refs are now letting play go on a lot more compared to last year. Last year you sneezed and it was a foul, right? This year is totally different. I think rotating, keeping players healthy, avoiding injuries, overstressing their body. It's a long season. We've got cup games coming up, the Carabao Cup. We've got international breaks coming up, not right away, but soon. So I think rotating in is going to be good. What's happened to Silva? What's going on there, do you think?
I suspect he's going to go out on loan in January if we get the right player in, or if Hwang produces like we think he is going to, and Neto comes back. I think Silva might go out on loan just so he can get playing time. But just back to your point, I think of all the ones in the defense that could come out, because we had two strong players on the bench, I think Saiz is the one most likely to move out first. But I agree with Andrew. I would like to see a more of a healthy rotation. But Silva, I think we're going to see Silva start for the Cup. We'll see how he does for the Cup. And I hope he gets into some games. But I think Hwang might have, if he continues as he did this weekend, we may see less of Silva.
I was concerned a little, and we mentioned it earlier, about the joy that they were getting down our left-hand side on Saturday, and especially that chance that flashed across the goal and King didn't get on the end of it. Those are the chances that a better team will put away, and it's why Watford will be fighting for their lives if they haven't got that number 9 to score those types of chances. So
I agree.
I'd like to know what changed in the second half, because it did become tighter. But I do think that out of everything at the moment, that's our only real weakness, is that left-hand side, which could see a Bolly come in because he's comfortable there.
Yeah.
Or come in on the right and then switch Kilman to his preferred side if that's needed. But I think as far as depth and everything goes, it's good that we are in the Cup, and I think he'll put a strong-ish team out against Spurs, one which Silva will start. And I think as long as he's starting those types of games against decent opposition, I think we'll be okay, certainly up till December, January time.
So I was going to bring up Silva anyway, because I don't know if you guys saw this quote that he had that came out today. He said, "Last season wasn't normal for us before we made it to the Europa League and fought until the end. We expect to return to those days when other teams feared coming to Molineux." Do you like that quote? It's a two-parter. Do you like the quote, A? B, do you like the quote coming from your backup 18-year-old?
Who wasn't there for those times, yeah. I think he's probably reiterating the dream that was told to him that made him want to come to the Molineux. And I think he's trying to point out that dream is still there. So it's not just to the fans, it may be also a message to other players that the program is still there. They're not too far away from where they were. Of course, there's lots of things that happen between now and then, but we could get back to that level. That's possible, but we'll see.
I think with him in particular as well, and this outlook that we're looking at, in terms of a team that we don't go gung-ho necessarily, but if we do get a 2-goal lead or a 3-goal lead early enough, then come 70th minute, he's going to get a run out, and I think it could be a chance to take the pressure off Raul a little bit, that he can come off. I think that's where the opportunity lies in the short term, that if we start to put some wins together and we're looking comfortable to close the game out, he could get some minutes, and suddenly he gets a tap in, Wang did, or starts to pick up 2 or 3 goals like that are bonuses really, but at the same time it keeps everyone sweet.
Yeah, it's a very cheeky tweet. It's a very bold tweet, but we are one of 3, right? Games and wins, and we got a lot of work to do. So maybe if we were maximum points at the top, yeah, we could be a bit cocky, but I think we need to tone that down a bit. I think personally.
So you guys think Silva would start for the cup game instead of Huang?
I think
Maybe
Silva
both
would
of them.
start instead of Raul.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe that'd be good to actually maybe see how Silva and Wang play together.
Yeah, I like that. I like that thought.
You got the rugby player and you got the skinny guy. Fly half taking on that big burly dude.
Fabio
He's beefed up a little bit.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what, Trincao needs to add to his as well. He reminds me a little about Silva. He's got the skills, but just feels if you cough, he's going to fall over. Maybe they'll start working out with Adama, who apparently doesn't work out, is what he says.
Yeah. I've seen his Instagram. That's a lie.
Sure. Yeah, just baby oil. Yeah.
It's all baby oil, baby.
Yeah.
So 4 games into the year, who is you guys' top Wolves player thus far? Who would be the man of the first month? Paul, I'll let you start.
I think Neves has been brilliant. So consistently, I think across games, I think Neves has been fantastic to start with.
I'm going to go with Kilman. The most amazing turnaround, steady, solid, goes after everything. Yeah, he got booked against Watford, a young guy. And he's actually English. He's Russian, isn't he?
Yeah, Mr. Southgate might have to lock him down with a cap if he keeps.
Hey, that's the U.S. men's national team trick right there.
Yeah. He could end up playing for the Ukraine because he's never played, so he still has a chance to choose.
I don't know whether anyone's ever heard, but he has represented England a few times before in the futsal team. Yes.
What? He played futsal? I've never heard that. I've never heard he played futsal.
Come on, Jeff, spill the beans.
So it's not I'm going to pick a player. I'm going to answer the question. The player that surprised me the most this year is Marçal, insofar as, like what Andrew was saying about Kilman, I think he's really shown so far this year like he hasn't before. But it's probably Neves, but to be contrary, I'm going to say Traore. Still doesn't have the finish, but boy, he's got the dazzle.
All 3 of those are great choices. I feel like those are the 3, Neves, Kilman, and Adama. I think those are definitely the 3 standouts. I'm going to have to agree with Andrew. I think Kilman is my player of the month, which I know I'm the biggest Adama stan. That takes a lot for me to say, but Kilman has just been an enforcer back there. And he's made Cody look better, I think, as well, because there's been a couple times each game where he's covered somebody who's getting a little bit loose.
Yeah.
Even like the extra body he adds as well, that a good 2 or 3 times pretty much in every game, he's been at least in the midfield or further forward from there as well. So if they can interject that type of forward play with him as well, that it may turn out into a little like Sheffield United in their first season, where you had that on-rushing centre-back. That could add a different dimension to our attacking play as well. And he could end up popping up with a goal. So I think the sky's the limit for that kid.
Yeah, he's put a few headers on target.
Yeah, just missing a goal threat, I think, from set pieces. He's got everything else, whether that comes down to aggression or something. He can be coached to attack the ball strongly. He's got the height and the presence, just needs the ball to hit the back of the net.
I remember when Bali was that goal threat, and it's been a while since we've seen that. So Kilman does stand out as someone who could fill that role, that Bali was more reliable, and hopefully we could get Bali back to it. That'd be great. But I think he's improving offensive as well as defensive. Kilman is really shining.
We did score from a corner on Saturday as well. It was them putting the ball eventually in the back of the net. It was them, but that was a Marçal short corner, and that was the first one that he really put on the money as well. It was a great delivery. So
I know you love my text.
Praise there as well.
Sign him. Love that text. Sign him.
Yeah. Let's look ahead then to Brentford. It's going to be an early wake-up call for us. Not real surprising based on the opponent we're facing. Brentford had that great start against Aston Villa, and then looking like
Arsenal.
Oh yeah, it was against Arsenal. Okay.
Well, but again, it was just against Arsenal, and it was, and this year I could say that I have some friends of mine who are Arsenal supporters, and I would say that as jokingly. I'm not saying it jokingly this year. So it's one of those. Yeah, I think they had a decent start, and they've only got the one win, but they've got those 2 draws.
So what are you guys thinking as far as any changes to the lineup, and do you go with a similar game plan as you had with
Brentford? Traditionally has been much more attacking, and it looks like even though they had that early success against Arsenal, and all kidding aside, I think a lot of that is that Arsenal was not prepared. They aren't struggling to find goals, and that's new to them. Tony's only got 1. He's supposed to be this massive goal threat. He's only got 1 so far. I think they've only got 3 goals in total. So that's not how they're used to playing. And so I don't think they're scrambling like Norwich is right now, but I think they're trying to find what works. And I think this is a good time to play them.
I agree.
Honestly, I think how we lined up would do well. But I would be interested to see if we had some minor tweaks, such as maybe Bali coming in, Mosquero coming in. But I really wouldn't change our front line. Our wingbacks and our front line, maybe a little on the wingbacks, because we've got some options. We haven't seen Hoover play. We haven't seen Ryan Aitner play, but I wouldn't change too much.
I think we'll be lining up if it is the same, and I think that may suit us, that we're coming up against a team that plays a relatively similar shape.
Yeah, I think they play a 3-5-2, right?
Yeah, the back, yeah. So I think for Brentford, that will have been a kick in the nuts losing at home to Brighton in injury time on Saturday, because those are the games they will need to look at, even at this early stage of the season, to say we can't be losing at home to a team like Brighton in the last minute. You need at least a point, ideally beat a side like Brighton. So I think that may work in our favour somewhat, that it may have winded them a little bit, dented their confidence. It would have been a game this time last season, or midway through part of last season, that I'd have been really fearing. And this one, I'm quite looking forward to it, in that I think, not that we're going to smash them, but by any way, but I just think it's going to be a good, entertaining game to 2 sides who've got some potential to score. I think it's going to suit us, and I think we're going to do okay.
I looked up earlier today. So of the 4 games, they played a 3-5-2. They played a 3-4-1-2 against Villa. That's the only oddball out. I'm telling you, I think it's going to be a very interesting matchup. It's between Sergi Canos, who's a very fast midfielder winger, and Adama. He has some very quick speed, and I've looked at some things on YouTube. The guy's going to be very dangerous against us. And another person that stands out in their team is a Christian Norgard, who played in the Danish Euros. Young kid, 21, 22. He's a striking midfielder. Those 2 together have a very good link, and it's going to be very interesting if we can. It seems like where Brighton and Villa did better was shutting those 2 down, and it didn't do anything much for Brentford. Are we at their place, or are we home?
We're home.
We're home, aren't we?
Yeah, they've not won on the road, but they haven't lost on the road. They are the Danish version of us, because they have almost as many Danes on their team as we have Portuguese. And I would also dub them the Madmen because they have 3 Mads. Who else has that many Mads? So it's interesting. I think it's going to be really tight. I think we're going to win it, but I think it's going to be tight.
Like a what? A 2-1?
Yeah, let's hear predictions. I'm
going to go for a 1-0. I'm calling for us because they haven't got their offense together. So I think it's going to be a clean sheet. But I think we're only going to get the 1 in because we're going to be busy fighting them the whole time.
Andrew?
I'll go for a 2-2. I think it's going to be an even match. Yeah.
That's the
Andrew. He's back. He's been replaced.
2-2. I'm possessed. Paul?
I don't know what I'm drinking, Andrew, but you can definitely have some of my glass half full because I'm going all in 3-0. Come on, baby.
Ooh, I love it. Okay.
I thought I was the optimist. There you go.
I'm going to go 2-1. Paul, they showed me they could score 2 goals. Okay, maybe only one of them they actually scored, but there were 2. So I'm going to go 2-1.
Everyone's gone for a W, and okay. I think it'll be a good one. It's going to be a confidence booster for us, though. Even if it's a 2-2 draw, I think we'll be fine.
All right, Paul, once again, we were inundated with no stupid questions. Let's hear what came through.
Yeah, thanks, everyone. This is the part of the show dedicated to you. Get in touch with any question when it comes to the Wolves, whether you're a legacy fan or a newbie or a tourist or Mr. Miami. You can ask us in a judgment-free zone, either on Twitter, Facebook, or good old email. So we've got 2 to begin with, which are kind of linked. So I'm going to ask these one together. First one is Alex Petkus on Twitter asks about our impressions of Trincao through these first 4 matches. Do you see him keeping others out the squad as this group gets healthier? Which I'm going to add on our regular guest, Joe 2 in Connecticut, to this particular one, because he asks, where do you think guys like Neto fit into this squad when he's healthy? Who can they sit for him? So what do you think to those 2 guys?
Trincao, I think, has right now solidified his position. He has excellent ball movement and he's got very good legs, speed, etc. The only thing that I think the defenders have done a very good job in the first 4 games, and he's going to figure this out, is they know he's a lefty and he's got a very good striking shot from that left leg, but they've been pushing him out wide to keep him from that dangerous shot. If he can just make his righty as good as his lefty, I think he's going to be a very good pickup for us. Extremely good. Definitely. As far as Neto, I don't know if Neto is going to make it back fully. I think he's not going to make it back till the end of this season, slowly. And I think his year will be 2022-20. That's my impression. I think that injury he's got is a very difficult injury to fully recover from. I know he's still young, and I think if our team is doing quite well, I think he won't be rushed back and pushed, and I think they'll just sit him out till next season, to be frank.
Yeah, I think Johnny may be a cautionary tale along those lines. He came back, got injured again. Possibly we brought him back and pushed him full on too early because we didn't have any other players. I think Trincao has impressed. I think for now that's his spot. I think his biggest competition right now is, and we just saw him just for part of this game, is Hwang. And I could see him and Hwang alternate, but I also could see Hwang come in for Raul. I think Raul and Dama are probably going to be there for starters, which is interesting. They may try down the road to bring back Adama as that super sub.
Yeah.
But I think that might just depend on who they're facing. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't save for Brentford.
Yeah, I was going to mention that, Jeff. I think you're spot on that some of the impact that Traore's had previously was from the bench, and what an option to have, even if Podence starts, that he looks round and he's got Adama to leash after 65 minutes. So I think we've got that in our arsenal at the moment, that we have got a strong bench, and it can be used effectively based on the opposition. But personally, I've loved what I've seen from Trincao so far. He seems to have done something better after each game. He's built on each performance, and I think the only thing that's missing, we nearly saw a cracking goal on Saturday, but the only thing he's missing is a goal really in the league, and someone's got to score those 3 that I'm predicting on Saturday. So I'm gonna think he's gonna get off the mark in the league on Saturday.
Awesome.
Yeah, those first 2 games, Trincao looked like he had a long way to go, and then has really turned it on the last 2. I was thinking if Neto came back, Neto would be the starter and Trincao would come in as the super sub. Now I'm kind of thinking closer to Andrew, that if he does come back this year, it's going to be in a very limited role. So I think if he does come back, he will be they'll be keeping him as a super sub, which could be really scary. We talk about the impact Adama made. Neto's got that same type of energy and impact, I think, and he could be really dangerous against even some elite teams as a sub coming in.
Yeah. As long as we don't do anything stupid and sell him.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up, we've got Joshua Pugh, who asks, the expected goals show Wolves have one of the top attacks in the EPL, but only 1 goal to show for it. Both of these stats are likely to regress a bit, but what do you think is likelier to win out? Is this ultimately a bad offense, or is it a good one?
I bet I know what Andrew's going to say.
No, I actually made some notes. I read through it. I think we have a very good offense. I think we struggled a little bit against Watford, and hopefully we can, change on that momentum. We will have bad days. Generally, we've had very good, solid, even though we've lost the first 3 games, we've had some very good optimum moments that are just outstanding. I think we do have a good offense, no doubt. Just a couple of tweaks here and there could make us a super offense.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think I think it's a good offense is we have more points of attack. And it's been a while since we've had the opportunity for goals to come from so many. And so, yes, we haven't turned those into goals, but not just shots, but good shots have been coming and solid shots and people creating. And it's not just from the one source. So that's why I'm going to say it's a good offense. We've got to get a little bit of luck, but we've just got to keep that tenacity, keep knocking on that door.
Yeah, I think it's a little too simplistic to say good or bad offense, because it factors in so much more, like the chances creation and the saves that the goalkeeper makes and everything. If I dissect it and say the offense is good, the finishing part of it has been bad, but that can be worked on, and I think that will come off one of these weeks. And it still factors into it. We can have all these statistics in the world, but how do you account for the centre back putting the ball in his own net on Saturday? So it can all go out the window. No one expects that. So better luck never hurt anyone. So more of that as well, please.
Yep.
I think with their speed, I think that's what makes them unique and will make the offense good. I think that this style fits the personnel a lot better than last year's team did with Nuno's style. I feel like a lot of these guys are meant to be full-time attackers. The Adamas, the Raul, these are guys that are meant to be go, and I'm glad to see it.
Let me ask one question. Do you, even though it's different, do you see some similarities from when we had that outstanding attacking in the Championship? And now we've picked it up and put it into the Premiership.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Oh, okay.
No. So
right.
yeah, I see that. I'm reminded of that championship year, the 1 year in championship with Nuno, as well as that first year in the Premier League. It carried over a little bit, and there was a bit of moxie, there was a little cockiness, but there was a confidence we were going to get the goal. And so last year, it felt like we were in a Charles Dickens novel, and doom and gloom had hit us. But this year, it feels like we're going to get it done.
But even the second goal on Saturday, when you play that back, it started in the centre midfield of Raul dropping deep and hitting an absolute peach or a pass out. I think it was to Semedo. So Raul was involved, Semedo was involved, pass it into Podence. He does a great assist and boom, there you go. So even though it was a scrappy finish, the whole build up to that goal was fantastic. So when you've got that nice intricate play coming off, and then you've got the speed and the power of Traore and Podence and Raul in the back of the net and Hwang bullying people, it does give you a lot of confidence, I think.
Yeah, again, you're going to have teams that are going to be so focused on trying to contain Adama or try to close out Raul, then all of a sudden it's going to come from Neves, or Marcel's going to do something to Trincao. And so that's what I'm excited about this year is, yeah, they might impact us on one area, but we've got an answer. And I think we're going to bounce them back.
At the moment, we're not a one-trick pony. We haven't been having two men stuck on Traore, because do that and you lock the walls down. It's not like that anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to go a little broader next with Wayne McKee on Twitter asking, now we've finally got our first points on the board. It's early days, but do you think the team we have could finish top 6 if we stay away from injuries and strengthen in January, or is that too optimistic?
The injuries are going to be tough because we also have to keep in mind World Cup qualifying is really squeezed in here. They're squeezing in an extra game every international window. So that still concerns me. I feel like if we're top 10 come January, then Fosun is going to have to invest some money. And at that point, stay moderately healthy. Let's say they can bring in Renato Sanchez then, and maybe Lille's bankrupt enough that we can steal in Botman. You never know. I don't think top 6 is out of the question. It's very optimistic, but I don't think it's out of the
I do think it has to also do with how well we play until January, because we had some who were almost persuaded. It sounds like an old hymn, but who were almost persuaded to sign on the dotted line. So if we play the way we're capable of, and they could see, hey, this is a serious project, I think our chances on getting these good players is solid. I honestly think it's, even though I'm the eternal optimist, I think it's a little optimistic to say top 6. It's possible. I think it's more likely that we're at the lower end of the top end. So we're like somewhere between 8 to 10. But again, it's a long year. I never thought we would finish like we did last year. And there was a while there before the end, we were worried about slipping a little even further. So
I think one thing for me about expectations is that it's become blatantly obvious that Nuno was fired, and it was down to the way that the team was playing, regardless of circumstances. And it's the expectations of the ownership that it's got to be better. So whilst I don't think there's that pressure on Bruno to necessarily have us challenging for those higher positions, I do think that he's definitely been given that mandate. That's the ultimate goal that he's got to get the team towards. So whether this season is more of a rebuilding one, but the emphasis is definitely there to add to this team and get his top players in to challenge next year for those spots, I think that is more likely. And I think just out of these 4 games, that I think where we're looking to be is the type of season we're going to have, you'd expect to beat a team like Watford away from home and at home, and those types of teams in the relegation fight or kicking around mid-table. I think where, if I was ultimately positive we'd have seen something happen, would have been in one of those first 3 games where, if we're really going for it, we'd have won one and maybe picked up a point in the other. So I think if you average those out between, we beat the likes of Watford and we may not be in the group of teams around the Leicester, Spurs, Man United, I think that's going to balance out and highlight where we're going to end up this season, which is towards, bottom of the top, maybe top of the bottom, 10th to 12th.
That's what I have. I have 10th to 12th. I think that's a good, solid position for us. I do. But getting back just quickly on the games, we were very unlucky against Tottenham. That penalty, that could have been a 1 extra point for us. I think we got shafted on that one, but that's okay.
So we're pretty broad with that, and some optimism for sure. And this one goes even beyond that. Joseph on Twitter, he's known as Blosif. He wants to know whether Bruno is actually the best coach since Stan Cullis. So for those newer listeners who may not know who Stan Cullis was, he was possibly Wolves' best ever manager and got a stand named after him and a statue and you name it. Personally, I think that's fairly lofty after 4 games to put him on the same pedestal or even higher than Cullis, but you never know. Jeff Shee could have picked an absolute diamond in the rough if Bruno goes on to do possibly half of what Stan Cullis did. So who knows?
He picked a diamond in the rough with Nuno.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, before Nuno, it's best not to speak about our Italian venture. That didn't work out very well.
And the Scottish one as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But he was.
He did a job.
Yeah. I think he did a good job of keeping us up. But I think if Nuno had the last year, especially the last half of the year, if he had left halfway through last season, I think his legacy would be stronger. And I think Nuno's legacy is going to be strong, even though it didn't end well. But that last bit did slightly tarnish it. I think right now, if you can't, until we're thinking is that Bruno was the next Nuno, then we could start talking about Stan Cullis down the road. So we're a few years away from that. And to be honest, Nuno took us from championship to top 7 2 years in a row, got us back in Europa League. So to get past that level, there's a lot of hurdles. It's doable, and especially since we have a lot of positives. But yeah, that's early to be calling.
Okay, and to wrap these up, we've got a couple more jovial ones. Robbie Meakin wants to know who's winning an arm wrestle. Is it Adama or George Elokobi? And again, for newer listeners, Elokobi was a left back in Mick McCarthy's tenure, built like a brick outhouse, muscles on muscles, you name it. It would really be a heavyweight battle in terms of an arm wrestle between those two guys. What you saying, chaps?
I think Adama's baby oil is what's going to finish it off. It's going to be just too slippery.
I agree with Jeff.
I don't want to talk anything about arm wrestling with Traore's shoulder. Hopefully it's 100% now. So yeah, no contest. Just don't even get into that discussion.
As long as it didn't turn into a scene like the one in The Fly.
Ooh. Yeah, I know that scene. Oh, there was for those who haven't seen it, there was a similar scene in Black Widow. So in the Russian prison.
Okay. Finally, Sean on Twitter asks, are there any actual wolves near Wolverhampton? You've seen a few on a night, haven't you, Andrew?
Of course. I was only 3 miles from the stadium at one point. I lived in Bantock Park, so I used to walk to the games and semi-stagger back, but had a good time. Yeah, so yes, definitely.
Now, Wolfman Jeff had a question before we started recording, also involving animal life.
But it's not wolves. It has to do with Watford. Okay, I was curious because I was just in Canada watching all those moose signs. And so at first, of course, you had to realize they're not big Watford supporters. And so knowing that Watford are the Hornets, but they've got a moose on their crest, and there are no moose that I know of in England. And it reminds me of the state of Alabama I'm in, which I think Josh is going to get this more than the rest. There's a certain team called Auburn who are known as, I think they're the Auburn Tigers.
They are the Tigers.
But they never say tiger. They say war eagle,
which
is just the most bizarre, curious. So are they just confused, or is there a history with the moose? How did the moose get on the loose?
Now, I would like to see how Auburn has the bald eagle that actually circles the stadium before the game. I wonder if at some point Watford would get a moose to just run around the pitch before the game.
That's funny.
Yeah, like someone in a Bullwinkle costume. That would be epic.
I nominate you, Jeff.
Yeah, no, he said run, so that's not happening, bud. Wolfman, don't run.
So we're about to head into added time now, chaps. So Andrew, anything on the horizon with what you've got going with Atlanta Wolves?
Yes, we actually, for the Manchester United game, one of the guys in Atlanta, his brother-in-law owns a nice little, cute little bar down in Roswell, which is right in between us and Atlanta, the city of. And he's hoping at some point that he'd like to come on here. He's from Wolverhampton, and he would like the opportunity to maybe talk in and listen in and give him some input. So we're very excited about that. Hopefully soon we'll get to see Wolfman.
Yeah,
going to come down.
Roswell's a lot closer, and I don't have to go through Atlanta. So
yeah,
you have me on not having to drive in Atlanta.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is they put us up outside, nice big tent, umbrellas, and they put a nice big 70+ inch TV. We sat out, a beautiful day. Yeah, we lost, but it was great, a great atmosphere. And there was a couple of Liverpool fans there who actually their second team is Wolves. And I asked the guy, I couldn't understand him, he was very heavy accent Liverpudlian. And I asked him why he loved Wolves, and he said, I just think your kit is so unique. And I was like, okay, then, all right.
Sounds like American to me.
Yeah. Oh, he was definitely from Liverpool, no doubt. Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that would be cool. Yeah, I do miss coming out to Atlanta, and coming to Roswell would be a blast. And so that's one of the things we hope to. We've been catching our local side in the off season. Our stadium continues to get built, and we had our new executive suite. And Paul, I got to sit with the owner in the owner's box, feeling like Robert Plant. It was awesome. So it's gone to my head. I'm sure I'll have that experience if I get to the Millennium. I'm sure.
Was it a whole lot of Jeff?
There's always a whole lot of Jeff. That's just.
That's funny.
Jeff, while you're on, let the listeners know how they can interact with the Wolfman.
Yeah, you can catch me on Twitter at Soccer in South, and then as well with my Soccer Chat buddies, we do the podcast, and our handle is Soccer Chat with 2 T's. We cover mostly Chattanooga Red Wolves. I interject in Wolverhampton. I got an Arsenal fan who we've been having too much fun with this year, and a Chelsea supporter whose head is now ready to explode. But we cover local soccer throughout the whole southern region, but mostly talking about brisket too. So it's a good time. Soccer Chat.
Great.
That brings this week's show to an end. So please continue to do what you can, listeners, in terms of liking, subscribing, and reviewing Whole Lot of Wolves on the platform that you find yourself listening to this podcast on. We'll catch you next week to review Brentford and then preview that little tasty clash again with Nuno in the League Cup ahead of Southampton away in game week 6. So until then, up the Wolves.